Hey everybody, welcome to the Amonkhet spoiler recap for April 11th on the Mana Leek. I'm John as always, and remember how I said this week would probably be a little bit more calm, fewer cards, etc. I was wrong, and I'll be the first to admit that. We got 18 cards today, so let's get through them, shall we? Up first, we have Doomed Dissenter. Doomed Dissenter is 1 and a black for a creature human with no class at common. It's a 1/1, and when Doomed Dissenter dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. The 1/1 side of this is kind of meh. I don't want a 1/1 for 2, and I'm not sure I feel like I've gotten there by getting a 2/2 token. You know, I get a bear, plus I had a chump blocker, I suppose. That being said, if there's a reason to have a sack target, one more time, I'm going to predict that the Black God requires a creature dying before it can attack or block. Mark my word. Or perhaps in the zombie deck, which we'll see more on later, multiple times over, then this could be fine enough. But don't work too hard to get your 2/2s. You know, I think if this was super busted awesome, we wouldn't have it at common. Quarry Hauler is up next. Quarry Hauler is 3 and a black for a creature camel at common. It's a 4/3. When Quarry Hauler enters the battlefield, for each kind of counter on target permanent, put another counter of that kind on it or remove one from it. This seems ridiculously powerful for common, so we may as well keep harping on the, oh look, green gets all the good stuff in limited line. Definitely feels like this should have been an uncommon, like Maulfist Revolutionary, so I'm not sure what it's doing slumming it in the common slot. Now, it doesn't have trample like Maulfist, and it doesn't trigger on death like Maulfist, but the versatility of taking off or removing each type of counter seems pretty solid. This just seems real good. Honestly, kind of shocked it's at common. Our final common for the day is Scorched Desert. Scorched Desert is a land desert type at common. When Scorched Desert enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target player. Tap, add a colorless to your mana pool. Deserts are back. Desert was printed in, I assume, Arabian Nights as a land that I believe did damage to attacking creatures. They thought about putting it in this set, but it's a really powerful effect these days. Yeah, this isn't any good. Unless deserts have some payoff that we haven't seen yet. I just can't see hurting my mana base to deal a point of damage. Doesn't seem very good. That's it for commons, though. Everything else we're going to talk about today is uncommon or rare. The first uncommon is the set of a cycling cycle. Haha, didn't even try to do that. It's Vizier of Tumbling Sands. Vizier of Tumbling Sands is 2 and a blue for a creature human cleric at uncommon. It's a 1/3. It has tap, untap another target permanent, period. Not even one you control. Although, untapping your opponent's stuff, probably not the best. It has cycling for 1 and a blue. You, of course, discard it, draw a card. However, it is part of this cycle where it does something when it cycles as well. When you cycle Vizier of Tumbling Sands, untap target permanent. Now, I'm calling it now. Cycling is going to be the aspect of the set that I get skewered on in my set review. People are over the moon on cycling, and I've seen, quote, if a card costs 2 or less to cycle, you play it 100% of the time. I don't agree with that statement. I think you still need the card to do something other than cycle, and the effect needs to do something. Renewed Faith, for example, I don't think is good enough. I would not play a card that says gain 2 life and draw a card. That's garbage. Play a card that does something. This does something. This is solid. It's ramp, basically. You play this, and suddenly you can, untap a land that you tapped for mana, tap it for another mana, and blue, of all colors, suddenly gets to ramp. That is just great, and if you're late in the game and a 1/3 isn't going to do it for you, and ramp isn't going to do it for you, you can throw it away, ramp 1 time, or make a surprise blocker, or do any other things. You can give a nice massage to an exerted creature, etc. Super solid. Vizier of Tumbling Sands looks great. Stir the Sands is our next cycle. Stir the Sands is 4 black for a sorcery at uncommon. Create 3 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Cycling for 3 and a black. When you cycle Stir the Sands, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. This is one that, again, outside of the zombie deck, and yes, there's still more to come today about the zombie deck, I'm more hesitant about playing. A 6/6 for 6, or 3 2/2s for 6, without any synergy is somewhat meh to me. It's where the vanilla test starts to fall off a little bit for me. 4 mana for a 2/2 and draws you a card? That's not horrible, but Nimble Innovators weren't exactly all-stars. Sage of the Spring wasn't amazing, it was alright. But that's not an amazing card. You're not playing this every single time because, oh man, it draws a card and makes a 2/2. We've literally seen that card multiple times over the past couple of years, and it's always been just kind of fine-ish, sort of. So I am not over the moon on cycling. I do love cycling. I do love drawing cards, but I'm not going to play every single card that says cycle just because it says cycling. Chef at Monitor is the green one of this cycle. It's 5 and a green for a creature lizard uncommon. It's a 6/5. It has cycling for 3 and a green. When you cycle Chef at Monitor, you may search your library for a basic land card or a desert card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This is a 6/5 for 6, which is extraordinarily filler. You know, it's even worse than a 6/6 for 6 because it dies to a 5x. That's just nothing. This is an example of a card where the base card I don't really care about. Now, 4 mana, and remember, you can always cycle at instant speed. So, for example, Stir the Sand, you could make a surprise 2/2. Here, you can ramp, and the land does come in untapped, which is very important, of course. You can ramp, I guess, on turn 4, which is starting to get a little bit late for ramp. You can get your Sun-Scorched Desert, but I don't think you're going to get them there. Plus, you do get to draw a card. Overall, this just seems kind of fine to me. And interestingly, I saw people doing my wah, 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 green is too good catchphrases about this card. And this card, I'm just kind of like, I don't think it's great. I think it's fine. I think if you're splashing, you'll certainly play it. And if you're looking for ramp, you might play it, but it just seems fine to me. I don't see this green card as being ridiculously overpowered. Our final card of this cycle is Dem Worthy. Dem Worthy is 4 and a red for an instant. I love that word. At uncommon, Dem Worthy deals 7 damage to target creature. Cycling 3 and a red. When you cycle Dem Worthy, you may have it deal 2 damage to target creature. You know the problem with burn? It's that it's conditional. It kills X3s and X4s, or you have to wait until post-combat. This virtually kills every single thing that it will ever be cast against, outside of ridiculous things. This is unconditional removal at instant speed. Yeah, it's 5 mana. Yeah, that's a lot. But this is unconditional, essentially burn at uncommon for red. That's not terribly common. This is yet another piece of removal that's making me really excited to play this set. I think we're going to be able to answer the threats a little bit. We're not going to say, oh, you got a train on turn 4. Well, good game. Yeah, I'm excited by this. The cycling is cool as well. If I'm at a point where drawing a card and killing an X2 or killing something post-combat is something I want to do, that's an awesome extra choice. But otherwise, just being able to kill basically anything I want is fantastic. Love Dem Worthy. Cryptic Serpent is up next. Cryptic Serpent is 5 blue for a creature serpent at uncommon. It's a 6/5, and it says Cryptic Serpent costs 1 generic less to cast for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. This, of course, is a total pipe dream in limited. You're just never playing enough instants and sorceries to go off with this, unless there's an entire archetype built around it, a la Eldritch Moon. I'm not seeing one in this set yet, and if you cheat this out for 2 less mana, you didn't really get there. It's still a 6/5 with 0 abilities or evasion. This is a trap. Stay away. Grim Strider is terrifying. It's 3 and a black for a creature horror at uncommon. It's a 6/6, and Grim Strider gets -1/-1 for each card in your hand. I almost wish this card was a rare with some awesome abilities, because the art is so terrifying. Anyways, this seems like something to keep an eye out for in a hyper aggro dump your hand kind of deck, black-red presumably, but I'd be very hesitant about playing this unless you build and plan very correctly. You really need this to be a 6/6 or a 5/5. At a 4/4, it's starting to get a little bit less good. A lot of people are going to get really best case scenario mentality about this. Be careful, build around it, and it's going to be totally fine. Lord of the Accursed is our final uncommon, and it's yet another zombie-related card, and it's a big one at uncommon. It is 2 and a black for a creature zombie at uncommon. It's a 2/3. Other zombies you control get +1/+1. Pay 1 and a black, tap it. All zombies gain menace until end of turn. It's a zombie lord at uncommon, and we have a zombie anthem at rare. This is bonkers. The zombie deck is real, period. Seeing this at uncommon, hammers that home. Again, and we'll talk more in the set review, I don't know how much of it's going to be embalm based. I think the embalm zombies are going to be sort of like bonuses to the zombie deck, but you're not going to go heavy on embalm with a plan of embalming every card ever. That's just way too much time and mana to really go off. But man, the black zombies with a zombie lord and a zombie anthem, I'm all in. I'm going to go deep on this deck at some point. Super excited by Lord of the Accursed. 8 more cards to get through, but we're done with the commons and uncommons. On to the rares. Up first, we have Pyramid of the Pantheon. Pyramid of the Pantheon is a single mana for an artifact at rare. Pay 2 mana, tap it, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you get to put a brick counter on Pyramid of the Pantheon. Tap, add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if there are 3 or more brick counters on Pyramid of the Pantheon. This is a lot of work to make a Gilded Lotus, not to mention getting an actual negative return on your mana the first 3 turns you use this. This is way too much work for me. Commander players, here you go. You're going to love it. Casual players, etc. But I'm sorry, I'm not paying 2 mana to make 1 mana. Even if someday I can make 3 mana for free, I'm not paying 2 mana to make 1 mana, period. Well, we still have split cards coming. We have Heaven to Earth. Heaven is X and a green for an instant at rare. Heaven deals X damage to each creature with flying. Earth is X red for a sorcery with Aftermath. Earth deals X damage to each creature without flying. Now, Heaven is not Hurricane, a very old card, because it doesn't hit players, which was a big bonus for Hurricane way back when. As it is, it's basically sideboard material only. Earth is way better, I think, because, of course, you're going to face way more ground creatures than you are flyers. But the fact that you can't play Earth in a red-black or red-white or red-blue deck generally is really unfortunate. Cool card, cool design, probably just way too narrow. Plague Belcher is up next. It's 2 and a black for a creature zombie beast at rare. It's a 5/4. It has menace, so something's got to go on here. Well, when Plaguebear enters the battlefield, put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever another zombie you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. Now, this is a design I like. Screw you, green cards. If you want to bring this out early, the counters go on this and they stay on it. They don't come off, plus giving you an upside like gaining life while you're also attacking for damage. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Very cool card. I love this. I think this is the design the green card should have had. Thankfully, we haven't really seen the -1/-1 counters pretending to be a downside when they're actually pure upside mechanic beyond those first 2 cards. Still mad about Exemplar of Strength. But yeah, this card looks super awesome. Yet another Zombie Matters card. Awesome. All in. Dread Wanderer is up next. Dread Wanderer is a single black mana for a creature zombie jackal at rare. It's a 2/1. Dead Wanderer enters the battlefield tapped. Pay 2 and a black, return Dead Wanderer from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery, and only if you have 1 or fewer cards in your hand, so you're heck bent. This is not Gravecrawler, which is basically this card, except Gravecrawler was way easier to recur and only cost a single black mana to bring it back. This can't be countered like Gravecrawler could be, but that's not worth paying an extra 2 mana. This is much narrower. Being able to block, which Gravecrawler couldn't do, is cool, but that's not quite enough. This is still 100% fine and 100% playable, especially if you're aggro or zombies, but it's not leaping out to me as much as other rare and uncommon zombies are, like Plague Belcher, like Lord of the Accursed. Still, I would play every single Dread Wanderer I can get my hands on if I'm in that zombie deck, or even an aggro deck of really any kind. Anointed Procession is our second last rare. Anointed Procession is 3 and a white for an enchantment at rare. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. Cue Admiral Akbar because it's a trap. Yeah, this would be super awesome if you just made a billion embalm tokens and etc. But in limited, you're just not pulling that off. This is a do-nothing enchantment a lot of the time. Solid bonus for token commander decks and token decks in any format that plays tokens, in white anyways, but be careful with this. Make sure that you're fully understanding that you're playing this to have some fun, and if you win, it's going to be a great story, but don't expect it to just go off every single time. Our final rare for the day is Harsh Mentor. Harsh Mentor is 1 and a red for a creature human cleric at rare. He's a 2/2. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. This just seems like an awesome hate card for a bunch of formats, a la Ashes Zealot, which had a significant sideboard presence and main deck in Standard, of course, and certain other formats. I'm sure people have been talking about this. In Limited, it's still a bear with an upside. It's a lower pick because, of course, in Limited, it's way more about casting instants and sorceries and regular creatures and attacking and blocking. Activating abilities doesn't necessarily happen every single time. Utterly playable still, and you'll get some incremental value out of it, but it's nothing like turning fetch lands into lightning bolts at your opponent in Modern or something like that. I see this card having fantastic sideboard value in other formats. Oh boy, we're almost done for the day. We have 2 mythics left. Up first, we have Ronis the Indomitable. Ronis the Indomitable is 2 and a green for a legendary creature god at Mythic. It's a 5/5, Death Touch, indestructible. Ronis the Indomitable can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater. Pay 2 and a green. Another target creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. I was mostly right. I predicted that Ronis would care about the total power amongst other creatures. He only cares about 1 power of another creature, and I predicted that his ability would be a temporary boost. Thankfully, it's not +1/+1 counters. I'm hoping that I nail the Black God predictions too. Anyways, Ronis looks super easy to turn on by playing a normal limited game of Magic. And then if you need to, you can very easily turn him on by paying 2 and a green on a bear. The threat of turning it on at instant speed, etc. seems awesome. He doesn't seem flashy exactly. He's not doing insane things when he comes down, but he is super solid Stompy Bomb. Really happy if I open a Ronis. Our final mythic, our final card for the day is a whole lot of things. It's Nyssa, Steward of Elements. Nyssa, Steward of Elements is X green blue? For a Planeswalker Nyssa at Mythic, she is an X loyalty counter Planeswalker. +2 her, scry 2. Pay 0. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters on Nyssa, Steward of Elements, you may put that card onto the battlefield. -6. Untap up to 2 target lands you control. They become 5/5 elemental creatures with flying and haste until end of turn. They're still lands. So yeah, this is a lot of things. This is Nyssa Blue, which had some foreshadowing. She had a chat with Yahenni and said, I want to learn things that I'm afraid of, and he gave her a sapphire amulet. Very interesting. Bit of storytelling in this horrible, awful story that everybody thinks is the worst story ever written. I think it's kind of cool. Anyways, yeah, this is the first X-costed Planeswalker. Given how it's utterly new in that regards, I find it hard to evaluate in a non-limited perspective. I have no idea what this is going to do in Standard, Modern, Commander, etc. Well, Commander, I'm sure it's going to enter the battlefield as a 30 loyalty Planeswalker now and then. But in Limited, this is just fantastic in all regards. It's going to be a scry machine. Scry machines are always awesome. It's going to be free spells or ramp. It's going to be a potential finisher by making 10/10 in the air. Whew. Awesome in Limited. No idea for other formats. It's really complex, so I'm going to leave that to you guys to talk about in the comments about what this is going to do in Standard, Modern, etc. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for a heck of a day of Magic spoilers, way more than I expected. We'll see what tomorrow's like, and Thursday, and then Friday, we will have the White set review. It'll be here, guys. And then, of course, a set review a day through the rest of the week. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think of all of these cards. Let me know what you think of that Nyssa. Give me your predictions for the Black God that presumably will be revealed tomorrow. I hope, because I have plans for a Top 10 Thursday on Thursday that requires the Black God to be spoiled. But let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at TheManaLeek. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at Facebook.com/TheManaLeek. Twitch.com/TheManaLeek is how I do that. And then Patreon.com/TheManaLeek, where you can become a backer, earn rewards like a playmat, etc. So check that out. Click that like button if you like the content. It keeps the channel growing in a very real way. Subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see more. If you want to know the second those set reviews come up, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But if you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow.